Can I ask where all these things came from? Or the stuff that was found inside?
Just a collection of our mechanics that works mainly off season now, who used to be in charge of this ride. He also helped build this one, Perry.
Oh.
He just kind of collected those over the years and tacked them on. So it's this little collection. So it's kind of fun, kind of kooky. So inside here is, basically what we call the vehicle room for this ride. Again, a large series of breakers we turn on. And there's also there's the sound effects. This is our infamous incoming ride spiel. Believe it or not, the ride operators don't hear it after a while because it's just part of the background. Right? They tune it right out. So people always say, does that bother you all day? I'm like, well, it bothers me now that you told me about it. But it's not as annoying as people think.
Is everything on a tape or is it on digital now after all these years?
I believe it's a form of digital.
Okay.
I mean, I've only switched here. This MP3 player doesn't control that. This is for some of the other random sound effects. You hear them mainly on the outside. And we also have obviously we have a fire alarm, so if anything we detect a fire, the ride is brought up to code. This is basically a little bit of a storage area in the middle of the ride, and it also gives us access to some of the scenes. The air compressor right here controls the giant rat, and it also does the bus. That's that, and then.
Double barrel.
So right here, we have access to the spinning lady. I forget her name. I think it's Matilda. That's what Perry used to call her.
Does she still spin?
She is spinning this year. Yes. So it was. It's a little bit of a complicated thing. It's just a pain in the butt to maintain, but it was spinning this year. Cool. So it's good to have that back. Yeah. This is also how we access the barrel. We have to check the air pressure on the tires, and also we can clean up any of the scenery that's on it. But it also gives us access to the back portion of the ride, just after the spinning tunnel.
When was this added? This was relatively recent, right?
I believe this came... Actually, it's not too recent. I think it was kind of like the substitute for the water curtain that used to be. That was removed because our park owner was showing someone through the ride, and it happened to not function properly when they were being shown the ride, so he didn't like it too much, and that's why I got rid of it. They did also track water everywhere. I can imagine. It was a little bit of a mess.
Being kind of all electric, it's probably not exactly the best thing.
We also have it's kind of a nifty security feature, I think, is our door alarm. When we turn this on, if someone were to open a door, the emergency exits throughout the ride, believe it or not, people have disembarked during the ride just because they think it's fun. Alarm will go off. We know to stop the ride immediately and make sure that no one's somewhere they shouldn't be.
Like touching the electric rails and stuff,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
It's not too bad of a shock when you do touch them.
You speak from experience?
I haven't actually touched it. It's always just kind of like a, when you plug in something that shocks you. But I prefer not to touch it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So this side of the track actually does go up, huh?
It does, yeah. I think it's supposed to help promote the effect
that you're turning.
Yeah. Yes.
That certainly does.
These pieces of plywood and everything that have been added, these were not part of the original. It was an idea of one of our maintenance men to do this, so instead of our floor being worn down and having to replace the floorboards, we could simply just replace these little strips, and it helped maintain the ride a lot easier.
Yeah, that's emergency exit.
This is an emergency exit. We also use this when we close up the ride at night. What they do is they essentially lock themselves in because they have to board up the doors out there. And they go out through the emergency exit.
Okay.
So it does serve a double purpose.
This is relatively new too over here, isn't it?
Yes, this was all, I believe, in the 1980s. This was added. The door came from the I believe, a relative of the previous park owner. Maybe it was the park owner's wife. She lived on the property, and her house was over by Rainbow Gardens in our maintenance areas today, and they decided to keep the door.
That's kind of cool.
Part of the Whacky Shack. Right here, notice like there's a lot of traction on the floorboards. That's because this is the toughest part of the ride for the cars to make it up. If the car, we believe, exceeds about 500 pounds, when we come to learn, it will not make it up this hill. There is an alarm that will go off, and it'll let us know that there's a backup and not to send any more cars. Because this ride's completely manual to operate. There's no block system or anything like that. We have a photo eye triggered sensors to let us know where the cars are at. But this hill is the most challenging part of the ride for the cars to make up.
So I'm assuming somebody has to come and push it up?
Yeah, we have to come reset it. It's a little bit of a process.
So,
that's a trick based on photo eye right there.
oh, it's right there.
Yep.
Ah. I always thought it was like a trigger on the car or something like that.
Yeah. The photo eye also, like the release of the air also controls the zombie. He's actually one of my favorite props in the ride. He's kind of overlooked sometimes, and you go by him really quickly. But he is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Spiders I always like too.
Yep.
Kind of hard to see in the dark, but. Do people vandalize this place? I mean,
what happens is a lot of times they take Sharpies. I don't understand why people bring Sharpies with them places, but the shrinking corridor, that's an ongoing battle to regulate that. But we have Goof Off takes it right off, so hopefully we can keep it under control. This guy, this guy was not original. It was I believe there was some form of a piano scene that used to be here, but it did not work very well at all. So they decided to do something a little bit different with it.
I mean, he's creepy enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so another electric guy, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Triggers.
Just like the Pirates Cove, anywhere with an orange dot is a fire extinguisher location. So they stick out. When the ride's running, most people don't realize they're even there, but the operators know. If there's ever something wrong, find the orange dot. There's a fire extinguisher right behind it.
Okay.
So we'll go walk through. Again.
Toot toot. This was once steeper too, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And then unfortunately, it was just not very practical because the cars just did not make
stuck.
their way back up. So there was too much weight in the cars. They sat down there. Like by every one of these doors, you'll see a couple of these boards. These are what we use to board them up, and I would basically just close up the door so people can't get in. So this is probably one of the most challenging rides to open and close for the ride operators because there's so many doors you have to board up, and there's a lot of switches you have to turn off.
Love this part.
Yep. And this is the toughest the part that's hard to maintain due to sometimes vandalism. You'll see where we've had to remove graffiti.
Yeah.
Usually it's just Sharpie, and people like to write their names or whatever they want to write.
Thank you.
And also in this spot, there's this metal piece right here is a brake pad. It
Because you're going down, right?
It basically trims them all the way down. It was not a part of the original design. It never operated to the public without a brake pad when they first ran it.
Oh, so you're kind of freewheeling through here?
The mechanic described it as he thought it was going out the back door because it went down that fast. So they quickly added a brake pad before the ride over opened to the public.
It's a really cool effect when you're on the ride.
Yeah. And also right here, just like the Pirates Cove, we have an access point to above the ride called the catwalks.
Thank you.
So just like the Pirates Cove, this gives us access to some of the service lights, to many of the scenes. You can see right through to the apparition scene through here. So it's an area we can use to periodically check on things or reach points that are hard to reach from the bottom.
Huh. And again, makes the most of the space.
Right. Yeah. The entire building's used. We have that middle part for a small storage area, and there's actually a very small section for storage area underneath this corridor for concessions department. But the rest of the building is very
Off of the ride.
well used.
That's the backside of the Ghost.
Yep. As you can see, we use very simple methods to get our effects. Like we just use a simple household fan. You don't see it when the ride's running, but it just makes the the garments of the apparition move a little bit, give them some life.
Yeah. These have got to be a pain to keep up because this is where the car lifts up and kind of drops.
Right. It used to. Last year that
They did take it out?
that wasn't limited because it was causing damage to the undersides of the car. It's just that violent movement. It was originally. It was a knocker board, and it was shaking the cars, which was fun. But again, it was causing more headache than it was worth because the cars were coming apart, and the mechanism itself is very hard to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a sacrifice, but it does help us keep the ride running as smoothly as possible. Also through here, there's a shortcut. We built this in to go to the other half of the ride. So it comes in handy when we're closing the ride up at night, so we can board up those doors without having to walk through the entire ride 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm. This part's always cool, but you come through here so fast.
Right. According to our maintenance, personnel, this was the hardest room to build. Obviously, there's a huge slope from the beginning to the end. This guy was recently restored in the last 5 years. He originally was pretty beat up because before they put chicken wire in front of the scenes, people did have their way with him. So, but he's glad that he's back. There's some thrill, I guess, behind it. I don't know. Like
see, that's good. Awesome. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Just go and enjoy the ride. Don't.
In this, the bar scene, which is actually one of my favorites in this ride, some of these bottles, they believe that Bill Tracy's were the ones he enjoyed while he was building the ride because he enjoyed his personal time as much as he did designing and building his rides. So he came in and glued those all down, and those are mostly originals.
So he was actually in here doing. Oh, that's awesome.
He did. Yeah. He painted the stripes in the strobe room. And he also he was basically here to say exactly how he wanted everything to be placed.
Guy was a genius, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So there's nothing up here other than strobe lights?
It's just an interesting circle of strobe lights.
Nice.
I've never.
I always thought it was like a spider or something.
Yeah.
Okay. That guy was always a favorite of mine too up here.
This year we actually, Randy came in and restored the skull a little bit, gave him optical white paint, and it brought him to life a little bit more, and gave him a refresh because he hasn't been really touched since 1970, so he got a little bit of a refurbishment.
He looks good. What's in the water?
There's a green dye in it that
Okay.
makes it that color. I'm not sure how often they have to add that in.
So obviously with the black lights on, it looks bluish.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, that's really creepy up close.
And right here is where the water curtain used to be. Like I said, when they were showing people through the ride, there was a malfunction and gave some people a little bit of a soaking. So they decided to avoid that because people are sensitive about getting wet when they don't want to be wet. And keeping just the water from being tracked through the ride through the tires, they decided it was best to do away with that.
Right. And of course, the last guy.
And the compressor right now is not turned on, so the bus isn't gonna
That's fine.
do too much.